So I was working for the church that I grew up in. And at that point, I had been following this guy named Willie George. He had the Gospel Bill show, and they had this curriculum that we were using. And that was my heart, to really minister to young adults, young teenagers and children. And so I felt like this is where I want to, what I want to do. So I'm going to move to Tulsa. My family celebrated the night before. We had leftover chicken from Popeyes. True story. I got the leftover chicken, and I drove from Houston to Tulsa in my car, and all I had, the money would help me get gas and oil. My car was spitting oil out as fast as I would put it in. Monday morning, I go to TV 47, and I say, "Hey, Steve, remember me?" He's like, "Oh yeah, Lee, I remember you." I said, "Well, I live in Tulsa now." It's like, "Really?" "Yeah." I says, I want to work." And I remember Steve sitting back in his chair and kind of twiddling his thumbs, and he's like, "Lee, I can't hire you. As a matter of fact, we're laying people off now. We can't afford to keep people." And then I hear in my heart, "Tell him you'll work for free." So I started helping as a grip and helping as a cameraman. But here's what I didn't know. Right across the street from TV 47 is where Willie George Ministries was. That was a guy working as the audio engineer at TV 47. His name is Chris Tice. And one day he said to me, he says, "Hey, tonight I'm contracting Willie George Ministries for the Gospel Bill show. You want to go with me?" That was like him inviting me to the set of the Black Panther, and behind the scenes. That was just so cool for me. I see all of my spiritual heroes. I see Willie George and Ken Blunt, all of these guys that were doing the Gospel Bill show on the set. So I started volunteering there, and I was the guy that put the hay, and I was proud of it. I was so excited about putting that hay up down on the floor and sweeping that hay up. And then my first real job, I remember them asking me to go to Quick Trip and buy some cigarettes for a skit. And I'm like, wow, I never bought cigarettes, as an adult, so I go buy cigarettes. Job was made for me. I became a production assistant and helping with cameras and lighting. And I'm happy, but I feel like I'm failing. I feel like nothing is going on the way I wanted to go on for me. So my life was miserable. I wasn't able to pay my rent. I was hiding my car from the repo man. That was a stressful moment. I had a refrigerator with no food in it. I had borrowed furniture, and I was frustrated. Even though I felt like I was doing what I was on the way where I was supposed to be, things weren't clicking for me. I'm in a strange place. I was homesick. I believed that I was supposed to travel the world and preach the gospel to this next generation. So what I started to do on Sundays after church was go to the airport. It wasn't like this real spiritual strategy that it sounds like now. It was just like, man, I'm believing I'm gonna do this. So we would go to Boston, Chicago, we would go to Hawaii, Seattle, Denver every Sunday. So that was my dream. So now here I am in Tulsa, and none of this is really happening. I'm throwing hay down on the floor. I'm sweeping hay up. I'm running errands and getting cigarettes, and and I'm a preacher, and I'm frustrated. I'm happy, but I'm miserable too. A young lady comes into the warehouse and says that Willie wants to see you. I go into Willie's office, and he says, "Close my door, Lee Wilson. What is this I hear you're not paying your bills?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" "This gentleman just sent me a letter saying you had an accident and you did not pay your part of the bill for the accident to fix his car." And he says, "You work for me." He says, "That's a reflection upon me. What other bills do you have that you haven't paid?" And I'm like, "All of them." and he did something that, to this day, man, just blesses my heart. He said, "I want to help you." He paid all my bills for me and made me pay him back. He said, "Someone did something similar for me. I want to do that for you." It was more than that. It was a man showing me how to be a man and showing me, how to take responsibility as a man. And he loved me. He loved me. It wasn't about my skin color. It wasn't about anything. Just loved me and loved on me. And he gave me opportunity to, to serve in the local church and be a part of ministry, what was in my heart. And one of the best decisions I ever made was to move to Tulsa with $62 in my pocket.